Yeah, we talk about the deep state. We talk about the globalists. Inflation versus deflation.
Well, I mean,
You're at Mar-a-Lago.
I'm baffled that this isn't front page news.
Do you guys support a specific political party, or do you dislike both of them?
Oh, it worked like a charm on you guys.
Let's go, Brandon.
What's up, guys? A lot to talk about. So Elon comes out and says, maybe DOGE should audit the IRS, puts out a poll. I'm going to show you what it says. The results were decisive, to say the least. Then Trump is really putting his foot to the pedal to the metal with ending the Department of Education. We were waiting for that, so that's good. And then today, Netanyahu visits the White House, and they're a little too cozy for comfort. So I'm probably going to show you this clip first right here. This is a little bit of a curveball. Trump just comes out and says, yeah, US is going to take over Gaza. Like, what?
Over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out, create an economic development that will supply unlimited numbers of jobs and housing for the people of the area. Do a real job, do something different. Just can't go back. If you go back, it's going to end up the same way it has for 100 years.
So there's that. I'm not shocked by this. I think that the hidden hand, if you know what I mean, was probably the MVP of helping Trump get elected, if you know what I mean. Let me know in the chat if you know what I mean by the hidden hand being the probably most powerful force in helping Trump get elected. Yes, hit that like button. Thank you, Denise. So we have that. I mean, they showed this picture of Trump doing super not Trump things. Here, look at this. There's this picture of Trump pushing in Benjamin Netanyahu's seat. I just bookmarked this. Let's look at this. You don't see that too often. So a little strange there. Okay. Maybe we could tolerate that. Then you got this.
We've heard Joe Biden and Donald Trump take credit for the hostage and ceasefire deal. Who do you think deserves more credit?
I think President Trump added great force and powerful leadership to this effort. I appreciate it. He sent a very good emissary. He's helped it along. And, I'll just tell you, I'm happy that they're here. And I'm sure the president is happy that they're here. And I would think that's about enough.
President Trump, I want Prime Minister Netanyahu.
So
we've heard
a lot of people aren't going to be surprised about this. The people that feel strongly about this have been talking about it for a while. And it looks like it's coming to fruition. So, I mean, there's parts of this that are okay, tolerable. Like, I don't really give a shit about Gaza, to be honest. Not one bit. But, if he goes against what he says and starts giving them resources to help conquest in the Middle East, then that's where there's a problem. I mean, I guess the real question of this is, is he doing this because he feels that it's the right thing to do, that's in our best interest, or is he legitimately owe them something? Because, the people that have some influence over Netanyahu and agree with him on things, contributed heavily to the election. So, this is something that we are kind of waiting for on the horizon that is definitely playing out. So let me throw a little poll in the chat and see what you guys think about this. The words I'm gonna write are: is the hidden hand the MVP of Trump's election? I don't know how many people are going to know what that means, but I think enough of you will. Is the hidden hand the MVP of the election? Should throw in a winky face. Do you guys know what I mean by that? Follow-up poll. Do you know what I mean by that? All right. Let's fire this thing off. And pull winky face. So we have that. I'll let you brew on that for a second. Then the most exciting thing of the day, Elon comes out with this poll saying, should the Department of Government Efficiency audit the IRS? And here's what the poll is saying on that. Let's see. Audit IRS. Where's Elon? Elon Musk. And then Joni Ernst comes out saying that she has a bill ready to go for this. Man, where is this freaking thing? Just a second. Scroll through my bookmarks. You know what? I have a link for this. I've got a link. How's everybody doing today while you're waiting on this? All right. Boom. Would you like DOGE to audit the IRS? Yes, F yes, or no? So pretty decisive. I bet all the no's were just people who benefited from the money laundering. So I got a little clip here that's pretty compelling about some stats on how things go down at the IRS.
You guys remember this administration hiring tens of thousands of IRS workers so that they can come after us for back taxes and audits to try to generate more revenue for the country? Only to find out from 2021 to 2023, there's almost 6,000 IRS workers that owe about $50 million in back taxes. You hired these people to come after us and your own employees owe $50 million? Ain't that about a... Oh, it gets better. Hold on. And even though the IRS has the ability to fire these people because they owe back taxes, only 20 of them have been fired. And look at this. You're telling me that some of these people have had misconduct, sexual misconduct, inability to perform duties, and 282 of them have been rehired? You're coming after us when your own house is a mess? I can't wait for Trump to start cleaning house. This is absolutely ridiculous.
Well said. This is like straight up piracy. Like we're being held captive by this crazy thing that we let slip. Like the freaking revolution started because of a 3% tax on tea, and now we're letting 30+% of our income get taken for stupid shit like they're talking about with all this US aid stuff where they're sending money to other countries for DEI and whatnot. Now look at this. Percentage of households filing an income tax return. It's over 100%. Like, what does that even mean? Like, seriously, what does that even mean? Does that mean that like people, like because multiple people in households filing taxes? And then you see stuff like this where you got what's her name? Caroline Levitt had a good clip today where she was rattling off some crazy. I love when they do this stuff where they just read off these crazy things that money gets sent to.
Live coverage.
Through USAID over the past several years, these are some of the insane priorities that organization has been spending money on. $1.5 million to advance DEI in Serbia's workplaces, $70,000 for a production of a DEI musical in Ireland, $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia, $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru, I don't know about you, but as an American taxpayer, I don't want my dollars going towards this crap. And I know the American people don't either. And that's exactly what Elon Musk has been tasked by President Trump to do, to get the fraud, waste, and abuse out of our federal government. Thank you, guys.
Insane. Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. So let me show you. Geez, I have another good one here. So listen to what this guy from the NGO says. Like, I feel like I can't talk about NGOs enough right now because, like the guest was saying yesterday, it's like a black ops thing where the U.S. military, they want to accomplish certain objectives, but it's not really in the bounds of legality to do that. So they outsource it to people who can do that without getting in trouble. And that's exactly what NGOs are. They do things that you would never be able to do in a million years. So here we go. Here we go. Perfect. Perfect. Watch this. This is wild. This is wild.
These NGOs that have specifically taken the, I'd like to ask Mr. Carroll and anybody else would like to answer this. Can you name some of these NGOs that have specifically taken these hundreds of millions of dollars and not used it to protect these children?
Catholic Charities, Islam Family Services, Jewish Family Services. I spoke to a gentleman that works in DHS. He actually sends the electronic fund transfers, and I asked him, sir, tell me who do you send, who are you responsible for, and how much is the largest check you cut? He said, I'm over Jewish Family Services, and I cut a check for $600 million. And I said, is that for like 3 years? And he told me, JJ, get in the game. That's 2 or 3 months, and it's renewable.
I'd like to ask Mr. Carroll.
So yeah, that's the type of money that gets thrown on NGOs. Oh, wait, we got comments here. Texas woman says, is she single, Brand? Maybe she would like 8 kids. Unfortunately, if you're talking about Caroline Levitt, she is not single. She, I think, actually dates a guy who's like 57 or is married. Oh, I think she's actually married to a guy with a kid who's 57, if I'm not mistaken. Here, let me look that up quick because I have a clip to show after that. But let's fact check that real quick because, yeah, last I saw, Caroline Levitt is married. She would be a great candidate. She's young. She's well spoken. I mean, like, what else do you need, Texas woman? You know what I'm saying? But let's see, is Caroline Levitt married? By the way, ladies, guys, anybody in here, if you do know any good candidates, send them my way. Because I mean, I know I'm asking for a lot. I'm asking for like 8 to 10 kids, ambitions to be and have a political life, whatnot. But you know, they're out there. Caroline Levitt is married to Nicholas Riccio, a real estate developer. 32 years her senior. They announced their engagement in December 2023, and were married in a private ceremony. Here, let me share this with you so I don't exclude you from it. I'll show you a picture of the duo. Let's see. Yep. So see, married to Nicholas Riccio, real estate developer, 32 years her senior. Announced their engagement in 2023. Were married in a private ceremony. She gave birth to their son on July 10th, 2024. Let's see. So he doesn't look bad for being 32 years older. Yeah. Okay. Whatever. Caroline Levitt, husband. I mean, hey, Texas woman, I would have entertained the idea, but not on the table. Not on the pictures. Okay. All right, so we figured that out. Caroline Levitt, not in the books for me. It's okay. It's okay. Let's see. So now back to the clip. So yeah, this guy said $600 million for 3 months for an NGO, the Jewish family rebuilding thing or whatever, you know, drop in the bucket compared to like the whole big picture. That's the nerve that Trump hit when he froze the federal funding, because it was like a, you know, gushing like waterfall type of thing of money just flying all over the place. Got to cut it and then, you know, carefully assess what actually needs money. So that's what they're trying to do. Now this judge, you know, ruled against it, so they have to appeal that and see where that goes. They're trying to drag this thing out, but the important thing the important things. Oh, let's see. I lost my spot. So Mike Benz has been talking about this for a long time. And right when here we go. This is a good clip.
Thing to have something like the USA that sounds on the surface of it. You just saw the big crocodile tears are crying on MSNBC. It's for humanitarian projects. It's for development projects. It's to help bring water to the village. And that's a pretty good cover. Why is USA? Why do we rip the mask off and say it's a CIA? And what is the advantage to the American people? You mentioned that it gave the money to the same sort of folks throughout the world. Who are those folks? And why is it advantage to the populist nationalist movement in the American working man and woman to basically rip the mask off, face what it is, and then shut it down, sir?
Well, this is a very, very complicated question. And I really hope that Trump world foreign policy folks understand the open heart surgery they're conducting on the way our foreign policy operates around the world. And in terms of why it's a bad thing that USA does what it does, this is one of these questions that, you know, I've known and followed this stuff for many years, but I never made a crusade about taking it on until USA got in the business of censoring the internet. And at that point, censoring Americans on the American internet and censoring American social media companies as a foreign-facing humanitarian NGO sponsor, you know, that everyone knows is just the CIA's plausible deniability layer and funding conduit. But when it started to be used against Americans on American soil, that to me was the final straw. That no matter how useful it may be to spend $40 billion a year bribing warlords in Africa, bribing oligarchs in Ukraine, bribing and recruiting terrorists in Afghanistan and Pakistan and Syria, you know, disguising medical supply vans, you know, in Venezuela with boxes of AK-47s and military supplies. The fact is it is no longer a foreign policy.
Oh, damn, music started playing back there, but yeah. So yeah, you get the point. They hide behind these things. They do coups like the United Democracy Fund or whatever it's called that did the 2014 Ukraine coup. They tried to start getting the momentum going with that with Russia when Putin was out of office. They did it for the freaking Arab Springs. You believe that the Arab Springs was not even an organic uprising? It was done by US NGOs. Same thing with what just happened in Syria. You think that was an organic thing? But no, not even one bit. It was like Operation Timber Sycamore. That I was the first one to bring up, by the way. I've been hearing everybody talk about this now. Like Tulsi Gabbard's talking about it. You got freaking Piers Morgan talking about it. Like all big names are talking about it. I did not hear a single person bring up that name, Operation Timber Sycamore, before I did. So to set the record straight on that. But yeah, there hasn't. I don't think there's been too many organic uprisings like at all, and like in the entire history of everything. Even like the Russian Revolution, like you know who was behind that. I'm gonna get into that a little bit and farther down the road in the Rothschild series that got coming out. But anyway, so all this kind of ties back into the IRS thing, the IRS getting audited. Like there's so much toxic sludge, money laundering, garbage, junk that goes on with this. And that's why everybody's getting freaked out. Like you see how Chuck Schumer's reacting to this. Chuck Schumer looks like he's about to cry. He looks like he's literally about to cry with what's happening. Here, I have a nice, annoying Chuck Schumer clip. Where is he? Where is he? Where's Chuck Schumer? I did a combination of bookmarking and downloading these things, uploading them to the folder. I mean, the photographic memory shuts off a little sometimes, and I forget which one I put them in. Let's see. Where'd you go, Chuck? Where did Chuck Schumer's clip go? Here it is. Share screen, and we are off.
Secret group. And the American people, mark my words, the American people will not stand for an unelected secret group to run rampant through the executive branch. Being innovative is good. But Mr. Musk, this isn't a tech startup. These are public institutions that deal with things like Social Security and Medicare and national defense and provide for the well-being of the American people. And the American people have a right to be part of that debate. Part of that debate. The elections occurred. And one viewpoint got a few more votes than the other. But that doesn't mean we throw out democracy. That doesn't mean what's been done for centuries in this country should just go out the window and be substituted by a small group of people who think they know a lot more than the wisdom of the American people.
Yep. So I would venture to say that a whole lot of Chuck's friends who benefit from the money laundering are calling him in a panic saying, like, Chuck, if you don't do something about this, we're not going to be happy. And if we're not happy, you're not going to have such a easy time getting reelected in the Senate in New York. Like we've made sure for the last however many decades. How long has Chuck Schumer been been in the Senate? It's been over 20 years now. Like, what an easy freaking job, especially when you just have all the money in the world. Speaking of all the money in the world, I'd say it's time to shut down the Department of Education. I think Trump agrees. Let's see. Let's find this one.
Why nominate Linda McMahon to be the Education Department Secretary if you're going to get rid of the education?
Because I told Linda, I hope you do a great job and put yourself out of a job. I want her to put herself out of a job. Education Department. So we're ranked number 40 out of 40 schools, right? We're ranked number 1 in cost per pupil. So we spend more per pupil than any other country in the world. And we're ranked at the bottom of the list. We're ranked very badly. And what I want to do is let the states run schools. I believe strongly in school choice. But in addition to that, I want the states to run schools. And I want Linda to put herself out of a job.
So do you think that's something you can do with an executive order, or are you going to ask Congress to do it?
I'd like to be able to. Look, if I could give the schools back to Iowa and Idaho and Indiana and all these places that run properly, there's many of them. I think. So if you look at the list, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, believe it or not, China's doing very well on that list, a list of well-educated, where they run their school system well. You have a lot of countries, not surprising names. I think that if you moved our schools into some of these states that are really well-run states, they would be as good as Denmark and Norway and Sweden and some of the other states. And then you'd have the laggards, and you know who they are. I don't have to go to it. But you'd have the laggards, the same laggards that are laggards with everything else, including crime. But even them, you'll break it into systems. As an example, if you went to New York, you go to Westchester County, you go to Dutchess County, you go to Suffolk and Long Island and Nassau and Long Island. You have maybe 6 or 7 locations. And you have New York City, which would include the 5 boroughs. And I think even that would run much better than it does right now. Same thing with Los Angeles or California. You'd have Riverside, you'd break it up into 6 or 7, but most of them would be states, and you'd have one, like in Iowa, you give it to the state of Iowa, you give it to the state of Indiana, these are really well-run states. They don't have debt, they don't have problems, they don't have any crimes, relatively speaking, to speak of. And you would have education that would be the equivalent of Norway and Denmark and various other places that are at the top of the list. So we're at the bottom of the list, and we're the most expensive. We're at the top of the list when it comes to cost per pupil. We spend more money per pupil than any other nation in the world, and yet we're rated number 40. The last ratings came out, you saw them. So they talk about 40 countries. We're rated number 40. And I say that if we did this, we would go 20, 30 notches up. We could do great. And we would have some of the best districts in the world.
All right. So hit that like button, first of all. We got 150 people in here. Only got 40 likes. Come on. Hook a brother up. But, guys, this is crazy. This is like the medical thing. We spend so much on this, and it's pathetic. Hey, look at some of these scores. Here, I'm going to show you. Look at some of these freaking scores. People are finally starting to put up these great charts that didn't exist not too long ago. I mean, I've looked into this stuff before, and they don't show these charts. I mean, now people are starting to make them. So there's change in spending and scores since 2013. So spending up 56%, scores down, what was that? 10 to 15 points in math and reading. So we're spending more. We're getting a worse result in math and reading. I don't even think we're in the top 10 in, like compared to other countries, which is crazy. And look at this. So just like hospitals, there's a chart out there that shows the number of doctors versus the number of administrators in hospitals. Since the 70s, doctors Yeah, like tiny little increase, barely. Administrators skyrocketing. So it's all these like BS jobs. There's a book about that, by the way, called BS jobs that like totally unnecessary. We're like creating these positions to like justify more spending. People who don't really do anything are making money off the giant slush fund. Like, what was it? I think the top 3 spending categories for the U.S. government is, I mean, aside from interest on the debt that we pay to a non-government organization, the Fed, it's defense, it's medical, like healthcare stuff, and then it's education. I think the medical stuff is 1.6 trillion. The defense is 900 billion. Then Department of Education, I think it's like 300 million. So look at this. Employees since 1970, way up. Total cost, way up. And then the enrollment down, barely up a little bit in the last 10, 20 years. Math scores flat. Reading scores flat. Science scores negative. This is terrible. Disgusting. So let's look at, I'll pull up real quick. Spending budget of U.S. government. So we looked at this chart the other night. We looked at for the purposes of, what was it? I think we're looking at medical stuff. Aha, here we go. Where's education? All right, so 52 billion. No, I thought it was much more than that. Well, I mean, still a lot, but shit. Really? Hold on a second. Department of Education budget. All right, so how's their budget 79 million or 79 billion? And then on that thing, it says 52 billion. See, like, we have no idea where anything's going when it comes to money. Oh my God. It'll be like Judgment Day if we get this freaking IRS audited. If we could get a real audit on the Pentagon, oh my God. Ooh, that's a good poll question. Would you, by the way, you guys are based, you said 89% or something like that, or 83% said that Trump was elected by the hidden hand. All right, so we got it. You guys overwhelmingly want the Department of Education to be ended. Got it. Now I'm going to put up, would you rather audit the Pentagon or the IRS? Would you rather audit IRS, Pentagon? Now, one of the most interesting things out there that I'm going to have somebody on for this topic named, her name is Catherine Austin Fitz. I'm going to get her on pretty soon. She talks about this topic of, I mean, well, let me first say that I've been talking about this topic for a long time before I even knew about her, but I finally found that she's somebody who talks about this. So I'm going to get her on, but like, there's $35 trillion that we cannot account for. Missing 35 trillion. The Pentagon's $35 trillion accounting black hole. While it shouldn't come as a surprise for an organization that has famously failed to pass every audit, so it started getting audited in 2017, has never passed one. But, you know, the IRS and the people with guns will come into our home and grab us and throw us in a cage if we don't pass an audit or if we don't pay our taxes. But the biggest cost of our entire government, of our taxpayer money, is this Pentagon. They can't be bothered to pass an audit. The Pentagon was nevertheless able to shock some observers this week with a new batch of financial numbers. This is from 2020, by the way, so this number could be worse today. According to Bloomberg's Anthony Capaccio, the Department of Defense made $35 trillion in accounting adjustments in 2019, easily surpassing in such adjustments recorded in 2018. Capaccio notes that the number dwarfs the $738 billion of defense-related funding in the latest U.S. budget, a spending plan that includes the most expensive weapon systems in the world, including the F-37 jet, F-35 jet, as well as new aircraft carriers, destroyers, submarines, blah, blah, blah. So what are these accounting adjustments? Todd Harrison of the Center for Strategic and International Studies says they represent a lot of double, triple, and quadruple counting of the same money as it got moved between accounts with the Pentagon. A lot may be an understatement. According to government data, there was 562,000 adjustments made in the Pentagon's books in 2018. So that just sounds really messy and really easy to steal money from, to say the least. I mean, did you know that on average, every defense contractor at the very least double charges us and like price gouges us for the things they build for us? Like, this is actually a bipartisan thing where senators have like from both sides have talked about it. Pentagon price gouging. Like, the things I really focus on are defense and medical when it comes to wasting money, because like I despise wasted potential more than anything, pretty much anything out there. And like the fact that we're still the strongest country in spite of wasting so much money. Oh my God. Like, imagine where we could be right now if we actually spent money on things with a good return on investment. Like, it's mind blowing. So here we go. Yeah. $4,000 soaps dispensers on Air Force planes. Oh, just you wait. Provisions in this year's NDAA would allow military contractors to gouge taxpayers even more. Time is running out for Congress to pass the annual defense policy bill after the election. Lawmakers must reconcile the differences between their revisions of the National Defense Authorization Act and set the top line for Pentagon spending in fiscal year 2025. When they do, they must strip two measures that will make it easier for contractors to engage in price gouging. While the House abided by the spending caps Congress established in last year's debt deal, the Senate added about $25 billion to the president's budget request for the Pentagon, bringing the department's top line to a whopping $912 billion. This is excessive, and the increase will not make Americans any safer. Lawmakers should communicate that those negotiating the final NDAA. Members of Congress cannot, however, overlook two seemingly benign provisions in the House version of the bill. It refrained from Section 11 of the House NDAA would bolster contractors' ability to price gouge the Pentagon. Where did my spot go? Already a significant issue for military. Just this week, the Department of Defense Inspector General found that Boeing overcharged the Air Force by nearly $1 million on various products for the C-17 military transfer aircraft. In one case, Boeing overcharged the military for a soap dispenser by nearly 8,000%, more than 80 times the commercial price. Like, that's an act of terrorism. Straight up. Tell me how it's not. That's like stealing from the country. $1 million, a drop in the bucket when it comes to overall Pentagon spending. But this isn't the first time Boeing has price gouged the department, and the practice is rampant throughout the arms industry. 2 weeks ago, the Department of Justice announced that Raytheon will pay nearly $1 billion to resolve a government investigation that exposed the company for overcharging on government contracts. You know, the problem is that there's only like 4 or 5 of these guys left after the budget cuts in 91 after the Soviet Union collapsed. Like, there's like 200 of these guys, but they all start falling apart because the military industrial complex shrivels up and dies and there's not a war going on. So, I mean, which is probably good for the bigger ones because the little guys really started to shrivel up and die, and then their assets got bought up by the big ones that remained. And then places like Lockheed Martin, they put their freaking president on the board of the committee to expand NATO and start pushing for like NATO to buy weapons and jets and all this crap. So, you know, they let the little guys kind of shrivel up and die, and then they found a reason for the world, or for the allies of America, to start spending a shit ton of money on American-made weapons. Where were we? Whistleblowers exposed both Boeing and Raytheon for price gouging. Without them, the agencies may have never discovered that the contractors overcharged taxpayers. So let's see. Unfortunately, the true scale of military price gouging is unknown. The Pentagon obligated $431 billion for military contractors in fiscal year 2023, nearly half its total budget. So the government often relies on whistleblowers to alert potential price gouging by military contractors. Lawmakers, by the way, just so we're clear, like, I don't know how closely you guys follow this stuff or whatever. Like, yeah, you probably don't think about that. Like, that half that $900 billion like doesn't go to our military. It goes towards people that build shit for our military. Lawmakers can also request inspectors general to conduct investigations into potential misconduct. Several members are dedicated to this effort and to preventing contractors from overcharging the government in the future. Congress overall, however, has played an integral role in expanding the opportunities for price gouging. Yeah, they have, because there's this thing they call the iron triangle of the military industrial complex, where, like, just like we saw in Ukraine, that's a great model for it. So Congress gets lobbied by the military industrial complex, and Congress yells and screams about, oh, we need to allocate this money to this war effort. We need to give money to fight in the Middle East or to help Ukraine fight Russia and save democracy. And then, they allocate the money, they send it out there, and Ukraine receives the money, and they're like, okay, now we need to buy the actual stuff from the people who can make it, which is the American military industrial complex, the defense contractors. So, they receive a shit ton of money, like to the point where, like, they were making so much off the Ukraine war this year that they were like, some companies were like backed up for with orders for like the next year and a half. Like, they were that far and behind with orders. So, and then, they get a shit ton of money, and then they return the favor of the people who helped this thing pass by, funding their campaigns. So contractor tells the problem to Congress. Congress tells the problem to the public. They allocate the money. Money ends up going back to the defense contractors. The defense contractors pay for the campaigns. Sections 8, 11, and maybe I should pull up a picture of that iron triangle of military industrial complex. Here we go. Quick little detour. So to check this thing out. This is when I really got red pilled in national security school. All right, so we got, let's see. All right, here we go. So we got large military contractors, campaign contributions to Congress. Then Congress, tax funding to Department of Defense. Department of Defense pays the large contractors, and it's a nice, beautiful circle, right? And they all live happily ever after. Let's see, like, there's like infinite freaking rabbit holes we could go down. But let's go back to this thing. So we're at the part where section 8, 11, 8, 12. Okay. Where were we? Aha. Sections 811 and 812 of the House NDA are part of decades-long effort to legalize price gouging. That's crazy. Congress has achieved this goal in part by broadening the array of products and services considered to be commercial by the Pentagon. According to the Federal Acquisition Regulation, contractors are not required to submit the Pentagon certified cost and price data for commercial products and services. Oh, yeah. Why would you require them to do that with the most expensive thing we do? These data include the cost of labor and the price of materials that must be current, complete, and accurate. So let me just say that again. According to the Federal Acquisition Regulation, contractors are not required to submit to the Pentagon certified cost and pricing data for commercial products and services. That's crazy. Like, even in the freaking auto industry, like where you repair cars, you're like, it's regulated to where you can only charge a certain amount per hour per labor. And that's tiny compared to this. This is, like, again, the most expensive thing that we do in the world. More often than not, the Pentagon needs certified costs and pricing data to negotiate fair prices with military contractors. Certified data is particularly critical when the department is negotiating prices for products or services that may not be available in the civilian marketplace, or for which there is a sole source. In these cases, Pentagon officials have few other tools to ensure they are making fair deals with military contractors. In theory, it would be easier for the Pentagon to negotiate reasonable prices for commercial products and services. Commerciality implies some level of price competition, but Congress has broadened the definition of commercial products and services to the degree that the designation has become virtually meaningless. There is no requirement, for example, that commercial products are sold to the public. Section 811 would further expand what products and services are considered commercial, exempting an even greater portion of military contractors from certified cost and pricing data requirements. This would further erode the Pentagon's bargaining power in negotiations with military contractors. While Section 811 broadens the pool of so-called commercial products, Section 812 provides the Pentagon the green light to rely on uncertified costs and pricing data in these certain cases. Uncertified data can be incomplete, dated, dated, or inaccurate. Contractors can legally omit any information that may indicate to the Pentagon that they are charging 80 times the fair reasonable price, as did Boeing for a soap dispenser. Even the White House strongly opposes Section 812, asserting that it would disincentivize contractors from keeping costs under control, creating unnecessary risks for taxpayers. The provision would hamper some prime contractors' ability to obtain certified cost and pricing data from subcontractors, increasing the likelihood that prime contractors overcharge the government, which ultimately pays the bills. The Pentagon is most capable of spending taxpayer dollars wisely when it obtains certified cost and pricing data. It helps the department assess a contractor's cost and thus what its profit margins may be. Sections 811 and 812 of the NDAA only hurts the Pentagon's ability to negotiate fair prices on military contracts. By retaining them in the final NDAA, Congress would be acting against the best interests of both their constituents and the Pentagon. Yep, everybody could dream. So one more thing to put a bow on this is no competes contracts. So this is a big thing that happens too. So there's the Pentagon gives out a lot of these non-compete contracts, which it's a contractual agreement that prevents an employee from this isn't the right thing. What the hell am I thinking of? Pentagon no bid contracts, I think is what I'm thinking of. No bid contracts. What the hell's the thing called? What's the freaking word for it? Come on, help me out in the chat. What's the word I'm thinking of? Shit. Let's see. This is a real test, guys. Can anybody help me out here? What is the freaking word I'm thinking of for where they like? What is it called? Oh man. What is it freaking called? No bid contracts. Is that it? Yeah, I think this is it. No bid contract, also called a sole source contract, is a contract awarded to a single vendor without going through the competitive bidding process, meaning only one company is considered for the work, typically because they're the only one capable of fulfilling the specific requirements. In situations where time is critical, there is only one available supplier to provide the needed goods or services. So let's see. What percent of Pentagon contracts are no bid contracts. Come on, can't give me a number. 32 billion in no contracts to the Pentagon since 1998. I mean, that's a lot, but like compared to what we see, it's not that big of a number. Oh, and then there's another crazy thing called cost plus contracts. Cost plus contract is an arrangement where the contractor is paid for all projects costs plus the fee. The contractor is reimbursed for direct and indirect costs such as labor, materials, and overhead. How it works: contractor provides an estimate for the project's cost. Invoice contractor sends the invoice for the cost plus the agreed on fee. Client pays contractor after confirming the invoice. The contractor provides regular reports. Client verify costs, benefits, flexibility. Cost plus contracts are flexible, can be used when project scope timeline is uncertain. Shared risk: client and contractor share the risk of cost overruns. So all of these Pentagon contracts or a lot of them are no bid contracts and cost plus contracts, meaning they don't have to compete with anybody and they could run way over the price. So it's terrible in every possible way. And it's bipartisan to let this happen because the people who vote on this stuff end up benefiting from it. So I'd like to see Trump do something about that. I mean, I wonder if Trump's even aware of this issue, but if he is, I would hope to see him give some attention to it rather than, just throwing favors at Israel. So I think we hammered that point home enough. And we could go on to pretty unfortunate thing that I saw Stephen A. Smith say today. Oh, wait. I forgot that this whole thing was about the Department of Education. Hold on. I have another clip to play about that.
Who's taking it? Are they trying to take that money that kids get for tax cuts for billionaires?
Oh, my God.
What's going on? That's why we have to see what they're doing. It is illegal to take that money out of children's mouths and give it to billionaires.
Now, are there areas you think that could be improved or streamlined?
Oh, my God. My members, remember, Al Shanker actually didn't want a Department of Education. He wanted it to stay, one of my predecessors, he wanted to stay within Health and Human Services, HEW, because he thought it was more important to have the whole child focused on.
By the way, before I end this clip, I'm going to put in the poll, should teachers' unions be illegal?
So, of course, there are ways to fix the bureaucracy. Of course, there are ways to make things better. I mean, Elizabeth Warren just found millions of dollars of savings that could happen if people work together. But my point is this, and you just said it. States and localities run education. That's where 90% of the funding for education goes. They already run it. They should run it. The federal government should not run it. But if we want to try and make things better, like having different kinds of pathways for kids in terms of career and tech ed, the states and localities have not done this. I was a teacher, an AP history teacher in a career tech ed school in the 90s. We have to change. We have to make these pathways available. So if someone like Linda McMahon and I happen to agree on something like this, you need federal policy to be able to push this. Let's outcompete the world. We need education to do that. We need to have a Department of Education to do that and lean into that.
It's been a disaster, though, lady. And I mean, teachers' unions, I just put it in the poll in the chat. Should teachers' unions be legal? Because I can't think of a single positive thing that teachers' unions have done. I mean, even unions, they started in a way where it was necessary. Like they had dudes working in sweatshops and like under damn near slave conditions. But unions overall are pretty much a drag on productivity and society. I mean, I'm not a fan of unions. I'm not a fan of minimum wage. I think that for the most part, you can get paid what you're worth. I mean, it's difficult in situations where because I mean, the whole thing that screws all this up is that things are much more expensive than they should be if things were actually following the right cycle of an economy. I say this in almost every episode. I'll say it again. Housing, food, energy, transportation, That's like 60 to 70% of the average person's budget. Should be like 5 to 10% of the average person's budget if we actually made those things in the way that we're capable of. Like, we have the technology to make those things 5 to 10% of the average person's budget, but we don't do that because, I mean, I go back to the concept of they want to slow the population growth. So if you want to slow the population growth, you have to dumb down the way that we use energy. You have to dumb down the means of transportation, like solar panels, for instance. Did you know there's a law that prohibits solar panels from being above 25% efficiency? Like, the sun has enough energy from it to power the world for, I think it's like billions and billions of years. Like, if we could harness even a fraction of the power of the energy that the sun gives off, we could power the entire world for free. Like, so why is it that there's a law that prohibits solar panels from being above 25% efficiency? Like, that's madness. So you see what I'm saying? Like, they dumb down our technology to make, like, if that was the case, you know how cheap things would be if we had free energy? It's crazy. Like, because that translates into food, that translates into housing, into energy, into transportation. Then imagine that. You don't need unions if the basic essentials of life are a fraction of your salary. Does that make sense? Madness. Absolutely madness. So let's go to, I think I have one more clip from a teacher, and then we could get off the whole teacher thing and talk about Stephen A. Smith and getting a little racy with some of us talk. Man, whenever you deal with these teacher people, like, who's seen House of Cards here? Remember that when he was dealing with the teacher protests, like if you could hold the education system hostage, and you're not a good organization. What they do that a lot with their bullshit. Like, teachers should be like completely paid off, like merit. You know, that I think that, imagine how productive the world would be if every job in the world had a like 10% commission aspect to it, in terms of like the last 10% of your salary is kind of floating, where if you underperform, you get 0% on that part. Like, say you make $100,000 a year and you have a metric that you're graded on. You can make, anywhere from an extra 10,000 to like 0,000, an extra 10,000 to $0 to $10,000 based off that metric, or even don't even have it capped, like depending on your performance. Like, if you found a way to add a commission aspect to everybody's job, the world would be so much more productive. Let's see what this guy has to say.
There was civility. We could disagree. We could have healthy conversations around what's best for kids. I respect differences of opinion. I don't have too much respect for people that are misbehaving in public and then acting as if they know what's right for kids. There was...
Okay, boring. Let's see, there's one more teacher clip that I wanted to play. Oh, yeah, this was a good tweet, I think.
Not one single student in 53 different Illinois public schools can do math at grade level. Let me repeat, not a single student in 53 different schools in Illinois can do math at grade level. Do not, under any circumstance, send your child to a public school. I know it sounds radical, but what do we hope to achieve when we send our kids to public school? Academic failure, stunted social skills, a dangerous environment where they might encounter shooters, transgender individuals in girls' spaces and sports, Marxist indoctrination. I would not wish my worst enemy's child to go to our modern public schools.
Yeah, that's pretty bad, but that sums it up. So, yeah, like the reason I went down that military industrial complex rabbit hole is because it's the same thing. It's the same amount of waste and fraud and abuse. Like, whenever giant piles of money gets thrown around to something, and then like the wrong numbers start going up. Like, I showed you that chart before that shows the number of administrators in schools has skyrocketed. The cost has skyrocketed, but the actual student retention, the reading scores, the math scores, the science scores, all fallen. So the things that you're trying to help got worse, and then unnecessary things skyrocketed. So that when that's the metric, you should have no patience or something like that. All right. So Stephen A. Smith comes out today and says some crazy shit. So let's take a listen to what Stephen A. is saying, then we could break it down.
Because when you handle it the way that the Trump administration is handling it, we want the most qualified, we want the smartest, we want this, we want that. What you're really saying is, we want white dominance again. That's what you're really saying. You want white dominance. Because if you're pointing to DEI, and that's usually pointed towards quote unquote unqualified minorities, because you're always using the word qualified, as if everybody that got a position through DEI is not qualified. We know what you're implying. We know what you're insinuating. And you got folks in the administration and Pete Hegseth. Oh my God. The nerve of him to just join into the fray and give his quote about making sure qualified people have these jobs. You're the defense secretary, whose only job prior to this was as a weekend host on Fox News.
Okay, so what? Does Stephen A. not consider service in the military as a job? Because Pete Hegseth had that as a job also, and I'd say that's like one of the most intense jobs you could have. And like, does it not matter at all that the people who he's actually serving, the people in the military, were overwhelmingly happy and supportive about Pete Hegseth? Like, does it mean nothing that he went to frickin', what was it, Harvard and Princeton? Whatever, forget that part. But like, to come out and say that this means you want what do you say, white people in charge? Is that what?
Dominance.
White dominance?
White dominance. Really saying white dominance again. It's again. We want white dominance again. That's what you're really saying. You want white dominance.
Okay, let's go down a rabbit hole, because let's make this super simple for Stephen A. Because I mean, he's usually super smart, pretty reasonable. I mean, I listen to him a bit more in sports than politics stuff, but he wants to jump in the ring. He could jump in the ring. Let's look up percentage of race in America, because this is where I think people get this stuff wrong. Percentage of races in America. Because, see, so white, about 60%. Hispanic, about 19%. Black, about 12.6%. So it's normal to have that same ratio of people at a job. Not because anybody's better, because there's more of them. But to say, like, I don't know, for a freaking pilot or whatever you want to call it, FAA, to say that those positions have to reflect this, or even to be above this, then you're forcing things to happen. Like I've said before, I get nervous when I see female pilots, not because I'm saying like they're incapable of flying a plane, but because they try to force things. Like the lady who was flying the helicopter over DC, she had under 500 hours of flight experience. She was 28. We don't know a ton more than that, but like they try to force these diverse people into these positions just to say like, oh yeah, I'm the first this, I'm the first that. Like, you know, remember Kareem Jean-Pierre, she comes out on day one and say, this is a day of a lot of firsts. I'm the first Black woman to be the press secretary. I'm the first LGBTQ woman to be part of to be the head of the press secretary. Yeah, like nobody cares. If you're freaking awesome at it, great. We don't care if you're the first. And you know what? It's a detriment to like your people if you're the first at it, not by merit, and you do a terrible job. Like Obama being the first Black president, I think kind of was a disservice to Black people, because even Black people freaking hate Obama. Like we kind of forced that. I mean, but at the same time, like, I mean, what was the freaking alternative? Like McCain sucked, Romney sucked. So of course it was going to be him. But I mean, if you had somebody like with a shred of charisma, might have been a different situation. But I think you guys get the point. But like for Stephen A to come out and say this, like, what is going on? I mean, is he getting some kind of pushback from Disney or something? Because he's been kind of getting warmer to the things that Trump's been doing, and like damn near sounding Republican or conservative to a degree. Like when he came on the PVD podcast, Pat Strip asked him like, so who are you voting for? And he's like, I'm gonna vote for Biden. Like he's like, why? He's like, oh, I just have to vote for Biden. He didn't give a good reason, and felt kind of like a situation where he was saying this just to kind of appease people. Like, but you really didn't buy it. I really didn't buy it. I feel like Stephen A. Smith behind closed doors voted for Trump, but I don't know why he's saying that. Like nobody's talking about white dominance. Like, what has Trump said over and over again? Merit, 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 merit. Like, I almost think that, like, I wish there's a way to, like, not even see what a person's gender or ethnicity is when they're applying for a job. Like, you obviously have to interview them and, like, see what they're like on the spot, answering questions, how they speak and whatnot. But, you know, I think that'd be the best case scenario if you literally just were able to hire somebody by their performance without even, like, thinking about their race or their gender. Is that so hard to ask for? And hey, like, certain things attract certain people. You know, certain jobs, more black people want to do those jobs. Certain jobs, more white people want to do those jobs. Certain jobs, more women want to do the jobs. Certain jobs, more men want to do the jobs. So, like, I think, like, yeah, sure, there's an element of people hiring by race, like hiring people that look like them. You know, it was really bad at one point. That's why they started kind of pushing towards this diversity direction. But I mean, geez, the pendulum swung way too far in the opposite direction of how it used to be. And, like, we're getting stuff like this because of it. So Bill Gates joined on The View today, and this is what he said.
Called Elon Musk's political influence abroad, quote, insane, along with another word we can't repeat here. But what's your take on his political access and influence here in America right now?
Well, Elon, his private sector work, you know, has been very innovative, really fantastic. A lot of private sector people, when they get into government, they don't take the time necessarily to see what the good work is or why it's structured the way it is. So I'm a little worried, particularly with this USAID stuff. My foundation partners with USAID on nutrition and getting vaccines out. And, you know, there's incredible people. You know, they're not actually worms that work there. So, you know, hopefully we'll get some of that work back in shape. In fact, if we don't, you know, you could have literally millions of deaths. So, you know, with aid, people think, you know, wow, how much do we give to these countries? As you said, it's less than 1%. People think it's 5% and it should be 2%, but it's actually under 1%.
Wow. And still saving lives. Well,
yeah, so the way I read this is I think that Bill Gates is just jealous because Elon Musk is doing exactly what Bill Gates used to do. Bill Gates used to have probably just as much influence, or maybe not as much, maybe pretty close though, to over presidents, but he just did it in a less subtle way. Like, look at Bill Gates during the like the COVID season. Look at him during the freaking, like, Obama administration. Look at his role in freaking vaxes in other countries in the last several decades. Like, why is he involved in this stuff? It's like, I think he's just obviously freaked out by the, like, transparency that's being forced now with the stuff that used to be really just disregarded, like, assumed in, like, a kind of penciled in as a guarantee for, like, but, like, I mean, you have to ask, what's his motivations for this stuff? Like, does he genuinely think that he's helping, or does he genuinely want to eliminate a certain amount of people from the world? By the way he talks, I would say eliminate a certain amount of people from the world. So I think he's just jealous of Elon Musk having the amount of influence that he used to have. And now he's trying to kind of cozy up to Trump. He's like, it was weird that he met with Trump for a couple hours a few weeks ago, but I don't know. So lastly, we have Ilhan Omar maybe committing a crime.
Musk, I want to see if you want to respond to him. He is actually singling you out on X. He retweeted a post that alleged you were telling Somalians who are illegally in the country how to avoid deportation. You do speak Somali in the clip, and the translation, according to the translation, it shows you telling people that if ICE attempts to question them, they are not obliged to answer those questions. I do not speak Somali, and I'm basing this on the translation that he retweeted here. And this is guidance that we have heard from many immigration advocates. But Musk says that you are, quote, breaking the law literally outright. Do you want to respond to that?
Well, it just shows you how much he lacks an understanding of what the laws of this country are. In the clip, it was an interview that I gave to a reporter. I'm not in that room, actually, that they pan out to. That is an edited video. And in the interview, I was asked, well, what I say to Somalis who are undocumented or who their documentations might have lapsed. And it is important for people to exercise their Fifth Amendment right to remain silent unless they feel confident that they have the legal protections that they need. Nobody needs to put themselves at jeopardy by speaking to law enforcement if they do not have the advice of lawyers. And we continue to tell people that.
And just before I let you go, sort of back to what Elon Musk is attempting here.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't she marry her brother to get citizenship here? Anyway, there's some crazy stuff being said by Democrats today. There's like this whole rally thing where they're just teeing off on Elon Musk.
Behind me, Elon Musk is seizing power from the American people. Elon Musk
That voice.
$280 million to buy an election for Donald Trump. Now, Elon Musk is here to collect on his investment. He is here to seize power for himself. We are here to fight back. Musk has grabbed control of America's payment system. This is the system that makes sure that your grandpa gets his Social Security check on time.
No, it's the system that pays NGOs a shit ton of money every year to do things that have nothing to do with American taxpayers.
This is the system that makes sure that your mom's doctor gets paid for her Medicare exam. Elon,
You know how much money gets wasted on Medicare bullshit every year because they don't even bother to audit it?
Musk wants the power to turn that on, to turn that off. No one elected Elon Musk to nothing. Not one Democrat in America voted for Elon Musk.
Huh?
Not one Republican in America voted for Elon Musk. Not one independent in America voted for Elon Musk. Not one libertarian in America voted for Elon Musk. And yet, Elon Musk is seizing the power that belongs to the American people. We are here to fight back.
Yeah, now you know how we felt about Soros for the last 30 years, Warren. But you know, the problem with him. Oh man, we have a ton of these. I have a couple minutes left, and I have to get on a Minnect called Steve P. But let's play just a few more of this crazy lady.
Take this!
Oh my God.
We will fight!
Oh, Jesus. Oh my God. Learn how to use a freaking mic.
Will not take this!
I lowered it halfway and it's still too loud.
We will fight back! Fight back! Fight back! And as I close out, because I know we've been out here for a long time, and goddamn it, shut down the Senate!
Huh?
We are at war! Anytime a person can pay $250 million into a campaign and they be given full access to the Department of Treasury of the United States of America, we are at war.
Yeah, how about when Ukraine and Soros did that and were given full carte blanche to the Treasury? What a dumbass. But wait, there's more. Oh, God. Let me adjust the audio for normal levels of voice.
I would say our country should be more fearful
of white man across our country.
Oh,
because
really?
They are actually causing most of the deaths within this country.
Oh, is that right? Yeah, I'd say we should be more fearful of Muslims since it's literally in their religion to not tolerate people who are not Muslims. Ilhan. And I think there is one more. No, this freaking guy.
We will win. We will win. We will win. We will win.
Such a freaking loser. Oh my god. There's one more I wanted to show.
Hello, everybody.
Oh, this lady's voice.
We have convened here in the right place, the Treasury Department. We have got to tell Elon Musk, nobody elected your ass.
See how nervous they are about auditing the Treasury? Why are you guys so nervous about auditing the Treasury? What's hiding in there? What's so bad about auditing the Treasury? He's not talking about cutting anything off. He just wants to see how things are getting spent. Like how he showed yesterday that not a single payment was refused, even if it was to terrorist groups. Why is that so scary? Why is it so scary you have to throw a big rally for it, yelling and screaming?
Nobody told you could get all of our private information. Nobody.
Oh, so the U.S. Treasury is their private information. The things that the U.S. Treasury spends its money on, our money, is Congress's private information, or the Democrat side of Congress's private information. Okay, that's a perspective.
They told you could be in charge of the payments of this country. We have told you you've made enough money off our government yourself. And now you want to take everybody else's payroll and make sure that they don't make the kind of money that you've made.
What a fucking retard. What is she talking about? Like, everybody pretty much unanimously across the country has less money in their pockets because of the way that our government spends money.
Oh, you want to use our money to go to Mars? No, we want to use our money right here in Washington, D.C., in this country. We want to make sure that all of our federal employees are protected.
Nope. Get rid of them.
We've got to make sure that you know and understand nobody elected you. You think you're the president of the United States of America, the co-president that can take over, go into our private payment system and do whatever you want to do. You got another thought coming. We're going to stop you right now.
Oh, shut up.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're at a crisis in this country. We're in a crisis in this country because Trump and Elon Musk and the billionaires have decided they're going to put us all in our place. They're going to run this country. They're going to make sure that they take over everything. Are we going to let them do that? No. Are we going to let them run this government in the way that they can make even more money?
No. All right. I think that's a paid crowd. Listen to how unenthusiastic the no's are. Like, the loudest no is like the anonymous dudes behind the no. Paid actors. I'm calling it now. Got to have a bit of an abrupt finish here, guys. I have a Minnect with Steve P. Very excited about that. I pinned my Minnect in the comment section if any of you guys want to jump on there and talk about anything. Ask me anything. Have a deeper conversation. Whatever you want to do. Get some insight on some clandestine activities, whatever. But as always, it's been great. Love you guys, and we will talk more tomorrow. God bless. Good night. Good night. You know, we talk about the deep state. We talk about the globalists. Inflation versus deflation. Well, I mean, here at Mar-a-Lago. I'm baffled that this isn't front page news. Do you guys support a specific political party, or do you dislike both of them? Oh, it worked like a charm on you guys.
Let's go, Brandon.